All right, welcome back, Exiles 3.25. Wanted to go over a build. So earlier today, or maybe yesterday, ConorConverse is a very strong softcore build creator. Put out a build for Molten Strike of the Zenith Juggernaut, and I thought it was a pretty cool build. I did think there were a few things that were a little bit questionable in the setup, which I'm going to address. And I thought there were some improvements to be made based on some stuff I was experimenting with last league. So I'll get into it. So this, what I have pulled up here, is the build that he published as his 10 Divine version. Now, I imagine that he probably did not put too much effort into the 10 Div version, not because I think that he doesn't put an effort to his things or anything, but because he tends to make things for like hundreds or thousands of divines, really high-end things. So I doubt this had like the majority of his attention. So I will go through and point out a couple things that I don't think are entirely making sense with this 10 divine budget in terms of the configuration of the path of building. But in general, it's a very strong build, and I think I have an even stronger take on it to show you. So first, I'm going to go through the custom modifiers. He had a bunch of things in here, but they were just there because Path of Building hadn't updated to the new gem things yet, and now they have, so I've taken those out. I did add in one thing. I put in for him this quality change, 20% more physical damage, because that's what quality does on weapons now. And then I've taken the quality. Oh, nope, I haven't taken the quality off the weapon. Well, that's a negligible difference, but okay. I guess if I'm going to give it an accurate evaluation, I should take the quality down to 0. Because that quality is already accounted for here. So he has this modifier 76% less damage, and I'm not sure, but I think the idea of this is to average out the attacks, because really if you're looking at how much damage you're doing, first I'll turn it off and show you. So this is that 5th attack. This is when everything's hitting. But that's only happening 1 in 5 times, so if you're really trying to figure out your damage per second, you should add 4 of these in, add 1 of this, and divide it by 5. And actually this number should even be a little bit less because it's shooting out less balls, which isn't accounted for in the skill. So I don't actually know why he put this in here specifically. He said it was, I don't know. I think it's to average it out. If not, I'm not sure. The math comes out relatively similarly, so that's my guess. If someone else knows, you can let me know why he's done this. Nothing wrong with having it on standard bus, but I usually look at builds on Guardian or Pinnacle, so I'll just make that change. There were a couple things that I thought were a little bit iffy. Both his only source of Fortify and his only source of Rage are Leap Slam, and I think that's wildly optimistic, especially Rage. Rage falls off very quickly now. I don't think it's reasonable to claim that you're going to be able to maintain maximum Rage. I would literally, I would maybe have this at like 2. Like, you're going to jump in, you're going to hit, and then maybe you get a second one. You're not going to have much Rage if that's your only source of Rage, which it is in the build. And I even think Fortify is a little bit ambitious. I know that if you're right in the flow and you're doing everything on time, then yes, of course you have Fortify, but then a lot of the times, boss has an immunity phase, or you're moving between packs, and it's going to fall off. So to me, I think Fortify needs to be on a main skill, at least from a hardcore perspective. So I'm going to turn it off for looking at the build. Normally take builds down to 90 when I look at them. It's a little bit hard to just take 1 point off of this build, though, so I'm going to leave it at 91. I guess if you were going to take 1 off, I would take it off here. I think, yeah, you have enough room for that to be okay. Everything else is sort of hard to take out just 1 brick. To me, on League Start, probably no tattoos, I would say. I would take these off. They may actually be quite accessible, this league, just because of the way the league looks. Like, maybe you're sending out ships and you're, like, bargaining with these different groups, and then tattoos is a really logical reward. But I don't know, just for Souls of Found purposes, I would turn it off. The gear he has, it's from a trade league perspective, so This isn't insane gear on day 2 in a Treg League, but you can't rely on this obviously in solo self-found. So my version, I tone down the gear quite a bit. I take off the Aster Mantis, the Cyclopean Coil, and the Iron Fortress. I also turn down a couple of the rolls on the resistances. But the version that he's doing is to get a sword that has this very high flat ellie, and then to just use all the balls as damage riders to hit it over and over again with this flat damage, and now with this really large buff that it's gotten, that all melee has gotten, but particularly Zenith. For me, I wouldn't consider this very league start. You know, these are very efficient clusters. It's got the good lethal pride. It's got the Iron Fortress. It's got the Aster Mantis. It's got the Crown of Eyes. It's got the Cyclopean. Okay. It wasn't made for solo self-found. So I've got you covered. And I think I can, even without this gear, I think I can make a very strong argument that my version is better. So I'll take you to that. I was messing around with Pillar of the Cage God and Trauma Stack some last league, and it seemed quite strong. I was getting around 5 million on a very tanky build. Now with a buff, it's even stronger, so I've combined these ideas. Molten Strike of the Zenith requires a two-handed weapon, and I've made this version, which hits a bit harder. Take you down to my configuration. I just have the same mods on there. I do have it on Guardian. I have Fortify and Rage and Frenzy. Oh, I didn't even mention that Conor had Frenzy on without a way to maintain it against a boss, but whatever, it's fine. My version does have a way to maintain it. I've taken this node, the Mark Master, with the 10% chance when you hit a marked enemy, and then I have all the balls coming out, so I'm hitting them all the time. And then same as him, I have Blood Rage for mapping. One additional thing, oh no, I should talk about the Rage first. So actually, I have Rage support on here. I don't think it's reasonable to claim you have perfect uptime without having it. Either a lot of investment on the tree or investment in the form of a gem socket, so I've even put it on. You would definitely get more damage if you were to switch this off for something like more duration, which is very strong support for trauma stacks in general, but I thought this is more reasonable if we're going to say we have the Rage. And for Fortify, I come in and I take melee hits Fortify to make sure that we have Fortify up all the time. The other thing that I've included, and this is definitely more necessary when you're trauma stacking yourself, is I have a substantial amount of life leech, some of which is instant, so every time we hit, we're getting 1900 life with some life regen. And if we look, our sustainable trauma, our self-hit damage is only 553, which is not so much, and then it's instantly being healed. So if you wanted to, and you wanted to say, well, I'd like to put on more duration and have a higher thing, might even be better to turn off there, and then you've increased the damage some. Yeah, actually it probably is just better to do that. I was messing around with this build a bit, and at various times, depending on where I tweaked things, the self-hit damage was getting a bit high. So I'll just show you what the self-hit would be here. So with this version, it's hitting a bit more, which is still really okay with the life leech, but as a sort of cautious gamer type, just keep it on there is where I would keep it unless you need the damage. So this node clusters really just to get to this Fall Strike skills target one additional enemy. If you're bossing or something, you would turn that off and take some other things. Trauma stacks, as I mentioned, they love duration, so we're coming up here, taking all this and anointing Potency of Will. So you want those trauma stacks to last. Because I'm hitting myself constantly with trauma, I can have a fairly high level cast when damage taken, and I'm using that to activate Ice Golem, so this thing will just sort of respawn frequently, and it gives me like another 5%. It's just sort of a nice thing to build in. We're a bit socket starved, so you couldn't do too many cast when damage taken tricks, unfortunately. So we have, yeah, the Frenzy Charge. I already talked about Calling Strike against marked. This build hits quite hard. If I take this off to show you the single thing, that's, you know, obviously a massive amount. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, I should talk about the Herald of Purity trick. So this is something that people became aware of last league, and it's sort of nice. You run Herald of Purity, which, you know, obviously gives us a little bit of help, and then we do Guardian's Blessing with haste. And Guardian's Blessing is a 200x multiplier, so Herald of Purity ends up costing 50% reservation, but the haste is free, so you end up essentially getting the free Herald of Purity. And haste is very nice. You wouldn't choose it based on raw DPS, but I'm not choosing it just for the DPS. I'm also choosing it for the movement speed. One, because I'm valuing movement speed more and more the longer I play this game, because, you know, it's nice to zip around. And two, there's a very real value to having high movement speed when you're playing a trauma build, because your trauma's falling off all the time. So in between the packs, you know, you don't want to have to restart your trauma stacks all back from zero. So it's very nice to get things quickly, and this build moves around at a reasonable pace. It's plus 82%, much faster than my average builds anyway. Obviously nowhere near something like Queen of the Forest or anything like that. For the items, like I said, I took off all of the hard to get uniques. All of these are tier 4 or tier 5. I think these three are tier 5, Calm Sign is tier 4, but you tend to get one because there's Calms related div cards and strong boxes, and it's a low level unique, so they tend to drop. If you could fit in another one, you would. The one issue with the build as I presented is we are a bit tight on the resistances. I did tone down a few of the rolls on here. Not that they were insane or anything, but just to make them even more soul-round friendly. So the next thing I would do is maybe get some more, maybe take a couple resistances here and then put a jewel in there. Wouldn't mind buffing up the chaos resistance a bit as well. We do have, with the modified node, armor covering a lot of chaos damage, so it's not like we're, you know, incredibly weak against chaos, but I would like to be even more well-rounded as we go on. Trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to touch on. This just gives us a little bit of recoup, essentially. Worth it as a single node, I think, because we will be defending against a lot of physical hits. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm looking forward to the league, although I don't actually know if I'm going to play it. I think I'm just looking forward to seeing what people do with it, because I'm going to have essentially no time again, same as last league. But in any case, if I do play, this is the build that I'll be playing. I think I can recommend it very strongly, and I hope you have a good time with it. Anyway, Ike's out. See you in the next one.